Personal possessions cover is also an extension under a contents policy, and nowadays we live life very much on the move, and our favourite must-have contents come with us. So those laptops and mobile phones that I mentioned earlier. Also things like documents. We don't tend to think about those things too much, but certainly here in the UAE they're very important. So things like our passport, our driving licence, our Emirates ID, these all have an intrinsic value. They all had a cost to acquire. And if we lost them or we damaged them beyond reasonable usage, we'd find that they'd be very annoying to replace, but also quite expensive. So it's worthwhile considering that and taking out personal possessions cover. Also things like jewellery, watches and valuables can also be covered under a precious possessions extension on the policy, and very often these will have specified limits. So it will be documents up to a certain level or jewellery up to a certain level. And even if that level doesn't entirely cover the cost of the item, because for example you might have an expensive watch, at least you would be able to acquire part of the value in the event of a loss, so that's very important. Home insurance policies also have a liability section, and you'll see two sets of terminologies mentioned there. The first is typically owners and occupiers, and the second is tenants liability. Now obviously the headings are slightly different, one owner occupier, the other tenant, but the coverage is actually the same. So the difference is whether you own the property or not. So owner occupier, you own the building. Tenant, you're renting or leasing the building. In terms of the coverage, what does that offer? What it offers you is a protection against your liability to third parties, and let me give you an example. So as somebody who is renting an apartment in a tower block in Dubai, you are classified as a tenant. So this cover for you would be tenant's liability. So imagine you're in your apartment and you run yourself a nice relaxing bath after a hard day at work, and you're so tired you fall asleep while that bath is still running. The water overflows in the bath and it causes water damage, flooding the entire bathroom floor, but actually seeping the water down into the apartment below, which then damages your neighbour's contents underneath, and they come and knock your door and say, what's going on? You've damaged my items, there's water coming from your apartment above. You were responsible for that, and it was due to your negligence. Basically, you fell asleep and let the bath overflow. As a result, their damage is covered, and that's covered under tenant's liability. An example for an owner-occupier might be a loose roof tile. So there's a loose roof tile on your property, you weren't aware of it until the day that your neighbour's glass roof is smashed by that roof tile. So they're sitting in their sunroom in their villa when all of a sudden a roof tile comes down and smashes their glass roof and causes damage, and then they'll come knocking on your door again saying, you've caused some damage to my property. Because you own your property, this is an owner-occupier liability risk, and again that's covered. So these are very comforting covers to have, and certainly very worthwhile under a home policy.